on my first truck. When I was 3, I drove 100,000 miles on my knees. I'll rock marbles and rocks for the girl next door.
That's perfect.
I can keep going.
Loved it. Thank you, Mitchell, for opening up the show like that. I know. It's odd. Construction podcast. Let's get the guys singing. Simple as that. And girls. Everybody's doing it. How are you doing today on a Friday? How's everything out west?
Well, it's overcast, end of summer. Summer was short here, 6 weeks of sun, and then started raining. So a little bit atypical, but how about you?
What is it? It's actually, we got going a little heat wave going on here. It's going to be like a high of 27 for the next week and a half, which I've never seen in September in Ontario ever in my lifetime. So I don't know. I think we have to pay more climate tax, carbon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's what that always works. Give money to the government, and they do what they want to do.
Well, welcome to the show, Mitchell. I'm so glad that you guys reached out to me. Kirsty, thank you. I know she's off camera there, and so I appreciate you guys reaching out to me. And this is going to be a great conversation because you're a builder with a few canoe trips, right? Like quite a few canoe trips, right?
33 years. I started when I was 17, went in business when I was on 22, and I'm 55 now. It's changed. I've watched it change, dramatically. I think as we all have. And I think the client has changed as much as we've changed and the government has changed our industry. The client has changed as well, which I think is something that we don't talk about nearly as much. The expectation and management of expectations is a huge issue in our industry.
Now, let me just share all the information. First of all, Mitchell Baker is here from Karnak Pro Builders, www.karnakprobuilders.com. You can find them on IG under Karnak Pro Builders, and also you can reach him on his email at mitchell@karnakprobuilders.com. And then also your other email is mitchell@mitchellbaker.ca, correct?
That is correct. Okay. And the last one, running for MLA province.
Sorry, say that again. It just broke up a bit. You're running for?
Running for to be an MLA as an independent for the province of BC in the upcoming election.
And that's what this show is going to be about. We're obviously going to talk a little bit about construction, but we're going to talk a little bit more about you wanting to make a change, because I think I love the idea of seeing more tradespeople getting into the political landscape, because we're not liking what the political landscape is looking like. I have no idea how they're building that landscape, the crew is attached to it. It's really looking bad, and it keeps on hammering us down, and it makes me start to wonder, why be in construction at this point? Why try to be an entrepreneur? Why try to do all this stuff when back in the day, we worked hard because we saw a lot of value in it, and we saw value at the end of the week, at the end of the month, and we projected, let's buy a car, let's buy a house, let's take care of the family weddings. Let's take care of functions. Let's go family vacations. And these are all things that all of us are now talking about not doing because we can't do it, which is such a shame, because I don't remember Canada ever being like this. I've been here since the late 70s, right? So I didn't come off a boat. I came off a plane, but I immigrated here, and I don't remember how it was. Like I don't remember my parents ever talking that it's gotten this bad. And it is a little scary. So I'd love to find out from you, Mitchell, when did you make the decision to get into the political sphere?
So I grew up in a political family. My mom was a counselor in North Vancouver. She was the mayor for 9 years. She ran provincially and got defeated in 1990. I spent a lot of time with my mom going over speeches and just generally talking about politics. It was ingrained in me from an early age. If you can do something, you probably should. If you think then you need to do that. And it's taken a long time. I think our generation was in a slightly different boat than most, or, everybody's in a different boat in every generation, but our generation went to work. Yeah. We were told to go to work. There was no downtime. We were told specific avenues to go in, either go to university and become something or go into a trade. And we a bunch of us went into the trades, and now I've been, I'm happy to say that I've been relatively successful. I'm okay where we're at today. And I think it's important, as I watch a decline, or I see a decline, in our industry that it's important for me to get involved, not just for our industry, but for other factors of life. When I see something that's incorrect or I feel is unjust, the person in me that was instilled in me by my parents was, then you deal with it as best as you can. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to take a step back from the business because I have to, if or when this happens, let's say. And because I think everybody's worth it. I think society's worth it to make that commitment from me. And I've been asked by numerous people and talked to by my friends and family and said, listen, of all the people, you're the guy that fights for the little guy, that fights for what's just, but I'm fiscally responsible enough to look after millions of dollars of individual clients' money and beyond into larger budgets as well. So I think it was time. I stopped drinking 8 years ago. My wife would never support me while I was drinking. Not that I was, but I had fun. And one morning I woke up and decided, hey, that's it. And then Kirsty looked at me and said, okay, if you want to run now and go into public life, I support that now, because you don't need all that other stuff that came along with drinking and going out and having fun. So take who you are and bring that to the public. And that's why I'm doing it.
I guess there's two schools of thought here, Mitchell, where it's like you're leaving. I'm not going to say I'm not describing it as the comfy world of construction, because that's not reality. Right? Construction is a very challenging world, but you're leaving what you're familiar with to enter something that you're not so familiar with. Because I'm sure that when you started telling people in construction, this is what I'm planning on doing, there was maybe, I don't know what percentage, maybe a lot of them were shrugging their shoulders going, good luck, give it a try. It might not work because you're not one of them. Those kinds of sentiments, right? And then you're getting into the suits, and it's almost like they're going to look at you like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. You're not one of us, right? And then you're going to get resistance there. So it's like you're getting resistance leaving and you're getting resistance entering. And so now you're left in a limbo. How does that make you feel?
Well, I've never really fit any mold.
Perfect.
I look one way, I speak another, and I write differently. And so when I stand in a room, generally it's been, I did some acting, and I got roles that were given to me because of a command of a room.
Yep.
So I granted this opportunity, the mouth and brain of my mother and the body of my father. So, yes, I can stand there and be intimidating, but when I open my mouth and we speak, the intimidation level drops and people understand that I can put on a suit, not the Arnold Schwarzenegger suit, but certainly I can speak knowledgeably about many subjects, and I research the shit out of stuff so that I don't come up feeling like I've embarrassed myself through lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
So the crossover out of construction, the construction level is so frustrated. The people in construction are so frustrated here. It is so frustrating to deal with municipal, provincial, and federal housing guidelines that have blanketed our entire industry, countrywide, regionally, that everybody, when I talk about it in the construction circles, is like, yeah, man, right on, go and do it. Because you can convince people that you're the guy to get in there, then you will be able to make that difference. And and it's been a really positive support group in the construction world, which has been great for me. It's been, obviously it's an ego boost, yeah. And I try not to be egotistical about it, because that's absolutely not what this is about. This is, I find it embarrassing to go out and say, hi, I'm Mitchell Baker and I'm running for MLA. I find that the most difficult thing to do, because I'm not great at self-promotion. I've spoken with my hands my whole life.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers the question.
No, it does, but sorry?
I don't know if as a politician I've avoided the question.
No, not at all. Because we all know this, is that when people want to get into politics, right, the idea is that they'll say a lot of positive things about changing things, right? And it's unfortunate that in our country, as citizens, we're not even allowed to leave a suggestion in the complaint box, because it will never get heard. It doesn't get addressed. You cannot complain to an MP. You can't complain to anybody that's in power, that's making changes to this industry. And the unfortunate thing is that you're attacking our livelihood, because as a business owner, everything that you throw at us, all we do is we keep on throwing it down the pipe to the client. So in the end, the client's paying all these extras that you're asking for, which makes it more difficult for clients to say, yes, we're going to move forward with this reno, even though it's an extra 10, 20, 30, 50% more, we're going to move forward. But the majority that we're seeing in our economical time is people are putting the pause on projects because of people that are not in construction dictating how construction should be, which is such a huge mistake. I would never pull over on the side of the road and ask a baker, where am I supposed to be going? Like, where do I find this place here? Like, first of all, I'd be questioning, why is there a baker on the side of the road? I don't understand this. What's going on here? So why are they telling me how to get to my destination? So it's difficult. Right. I want to see more contractors in the political sphere, but it's going to be a challenge. And I'd love to find out from you, what are the top 5 problems going on right now in specifically in your province regarding construction and what's happening down the pipe?
So our provincial government, I don't know if you know, has just legislated or tried to legislate that all single family lots in the province can be a 4 or 6-plex. And
they've done the same here. They've done the same here in Ontario as well. And the problem is that getting the approvals for the permits, it's 6 to 8 months.
So the province has tried to step in and say there's a maximum timeline. A lot of the municipalities have said, no, we're not going to deal with this. They've changed their bylaws. So there's, like currently where I live, so there is no single family lots. So they rezoned the entire municipality so that rule doesn't apply, because it only applied to single family lots. So they made everything just in a single vote, everything, they got rid of single family. Now everything can have a house, a coach house, and a suite, which technically is not a single family. So the 4 and 6-plex don't apply. But what's happened there now is they've downloaded, and it's a bit of a segue, but it's downloaded the homelessness issue onto the backs of the private citizen.
Yeah.
So now what happens as a homeowner is like, oh, well, I'm sort of asked to be, I'm being told that I can do this, but maybe I should borrow $600,000 to put a coach house in and pay the rate there. And then my property value will go up and I'll get taxed at that end too. And if I do manage to make any money on top of the mortgage payment, then I'm going to get taxed on that as well. And if my property value in this province goes over $3 million, my assessment, then they're going to raise my taxes even higher if I'm over dollars. And all of that is paid for through interest as well. Like all of this stuff. And so we are being asked as citizens to solve a housing crisis that was created by a government that imposed changes to the building codes and the charges for CACs for multifamily and stuff. And all of those extra costs, we're being asked to solve the problem that's been created by government at our cost. And for the benefit of us doing that, they'll charge us more in tax, as they're the assessment authority as well, that determines, like, the whole thing is just so, it's like multi-level marketing. And there's only one group at the top that's getting paid. And it's an impossible circle. As government grows and the growth of government is exceeding the pace of the private sector, there's a vortex where the money goes. Private money only comes from the private sector. Yeah. And it goes to
but you never hear from the politicians that the problem that the solution that they presented has created a bigger problem. You never hear them say anything about that. And I'm like, I guess you'd have probably a lot more respect from the citizens of this country if you actually admitted fault and said, okay, well, we understand that this didn't work, but this is what we're going to try now. We're going to do this and see if it works. But at some point you got to realize, listen, because like, take it to construction. You can give a new person so many tries, but if they keep on making mistake after mistake after mistake, there's no point in having that person open up the toolbox and start continuing the work, because it doesn't benefit you as a business owner. You're just ruining things. Three-way the world. These little puppies. I'm speaking from experience. I've actually installed these and I love these. Three-way prefabricated inside drywall corner, the first one-piece solution for perfect, crisp corners every time. With three-way, you'll improve your quality, save on labor, and cut down on time. Traditional methods require 3 tapes, lots of sanding, and high skill. But with three-way corners, they install in just a fraction of the time with fewer steps. It is adjustable for any angle, reinforced to cover gaps, and designed to blend seamlessly into the corner. Say goodbye to pesky touch-ups and hello to flawless finishes. Try three-way today and revolutionize your drywall game. Perfect corners every time. To purchase or check out some how-to videos to see the installs in action, visit threeway.ca or connect with them at 306-514-3768 or drop them an email at threewaytheworld@gmail.com. Connect with me, TCL, and stop by the studio and get a free pack on us for anyone to try. And trust me, I'm telling you, you'll love it. This message is proudly supported by the Construction Life.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. This government here is an unelected government. The premier is an unelected premier. He got handed the reins here, and now there's going to be an election, and I think that's going to change some of the policies of the current government. They could be good policies had they been thought through 100%, but I don't think they have been. Well, I know they haven't been. The infrastructure problems. So most of the regions around here, their infrastructure's maxed. We have 90-year-old water lines and 80-year-old sewers, and they're already overflowing. They're driving trucks onto manhole covers to hold the manhole cover down at rush hour in the storm sewers, and that's a thing. That's public knowledge. Huh. I mean, it's supposed to be. I actually had videos of it or pictures of it in the newspaper of them parking pickup trucks on manholes to stop them from blowing off. So now, if you tell everybody, "Oh, we're going to build a 4 and a 6-plex on your property or a coach house and a suite, so we're going to increase the number of people there, but we haven't increased the infrastructure." I don't know where they've spent that money. We don't have new parks. We don't have any of these things that one would think would be, part and parcel of a growing community. We're not seeing that, and our infrastructure is failing at an unprecedented rate. So that being downloaded from one government to another, we've got the federal government saying they're going to build a house every 45 seconds for the next 7 years.
Which it's a complete lie, right? Like it's not, even if you did a data dump and started asking key people in construction, how long would it take to build this many homes? They would never get that response. That would not be the reply. And it's unfortunate that taxpayer dollars were used to just do some sort of assessment by people that don't know anything about construction. And you shouldn't be doing that. But it's unfortunate because I don't know anybody who's asked in construction. Have you been asked? Like, we talk, everybody talks, and you're like, have you ever been approached by somebody from government asking you, like, how long does it actually take to build a house? Like, we've all seen the memes. We've seen all, politicians, getting on a job site completely disregarding all the Ministry of Labor rules and regs regarding anything, but they're showing up there on, with their dress shoes and no hard hats, no gloves, no nothing, no safety goggles, no nothing, but yet they're making their media bite. That's what they're making. And it doesn't work. And then it's hard for the construction industry to speak out because, and you probably see this because I see this because I'm careful with my words, that the union construction world is a pretty strong monster. You know what I mean? And if you start speaking out in construction terms and you start speaking out about union, they're kind of politicians in their own way, and they're dictating where things are going to go and what's going to get done. And so they won't rally against the small blue collar entrepreneur, business owner. They won't, because they're part of the machine. And that's the unfortunate thing. That's what I'm seeing here in Ontario. It's bad here in Ontario.
And I can't speak to that because I have very little contact with union. I was a union member, still am, for IATSE in film.
Yeah. I was a NABEC guy way back in the day.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, for GRIP. I did that for a good, 5 or 6 years. Yeah, I did one day on an IATSE show.
Well, yeah, and I was in IATSE. Well, I still am, but I worked actively for 7 years.
Nice.
And I was shop steward. Yeah. So that was my only foray into union, and I had come from the private sector. And of course, I like to go to work. I think everybody needs to work. And I was able to encourage the guys, maybe some of the guys who'd been there for a long, long time, who were, a lot of sitting on tables, reading newspapers, collecting their paycheck, like, hey, let's do this. This is actually fun. We've been granted an unbelievable opportunity. And there's a reason that the film industry was built in trucks and so it could drive away if you're treating them wrong.
Yeah.
There's a reason. So, I still really enjoy film. I enjoy the whole aspect of it. I felt that, I got big pressure from the private sector to come back out and build houses. So that's what I did. I built a house a year while I was on the inside, as I call it, just for clients in my spare time because I had so much of it. But, I enjoyed that time, and I was able to bring some of that back out into the real world. Like, you learn a lot in that industry, like of efficiency and having hundreds of guys with a common goal, like in a very short period of time. And I was able to bring that back out into the real world.
I've always said it. I've always said that just the mindset of film, the way it is, like the gypsies arrive on set and then they just offload everything, and then you create the content you need to create, and then you package everything up and you're gone. It has a similar mindset to the military, to farmers, and to construction. They're all in the same kind of boat where, a lot of people, when they heard that I came from film and got into construction, they're like, I don't understand how you're going from one completely different industry to this industry. And I'm like, you have no idea. The similarities are insane. They're very, very similar, those two worlds. Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest reasons I got out, besides being asked to keep building and building and building, was that it was almost embarrassing, the waste. We saved a lot of product.
It was insane. It was absolutely insane.
Say, well, oh, Grandpa, what happened to the rainforest? Oh, we cut it down, took some pictures, and threw it away. And that was really hard to deal with. I know the industry's changed substantially since then, since I left in 2005.
Yeah.
I know there's been some big changes, and there's a lot more saving of material, and they try to make a lot less waste. Just making it safer with the paint and all that stuff has made waste less and less. So I have a little bit more confidence that we can save a bit more rainforest from just taking pictures and throwing it away.
Speaking of which, because I know that they're implementing all these new rules that I think they're starting with you guys, and they're going to eventually come to Ontario, where they're expecting job sites to have different bins for different waste. They want us to start recycling and doing all that. It's all wonderful, all said and done. But when I know for a fact that recyclable material, I think it's also in BC as it is in Ontario, it's not being recycled. It's being burned and dug and buried. It's not being recycled. So why are we asking the citizens to separate everything, but yet you're doing this? And now you're coming into the construction space where you've got a custom build going on, and they're expecting us to have 3 different bins on the site to accommodate the separation of garbage. And where's that cost going to go? Obviously to the end user. It's going to the homeowner. The business is not going to eat that cost. So these are unrealistic expectations of construction. And then I always argue the point, you talk big construction, good luck on trying to see high-rise projects where they're going to have several different bins for different things and having the workforce accommodate that. It will never happen. It's going to get solved with a wad of money in an envelope where you go away, leave me alone, because this is an important project. Go after the small guys that are building custom one-off projects. Go after those guys that are doing that and then give them fines. But that's not realistic. So it's like, lately, my conversations about politics on social media, or people reach out to me because of the show, has been about, where do you see the country going? And I said, it's a big question mark, dude. Like right now, when the election happens next year, if it happens next year, I know. So it's like the person who's going to replace the person that's currently there is basically being given the position just because they're the alternative. Federally speaking. Well,
and generally, and I've said this for decades, in this country, we vote people out. We don't vote people in. And
so true. It is so true.
Unbelievable that we, I'm trying to give somebody an option to vote for.
Yeah.
I'm trying, I don't like mudslinging. I disagree with that whole policy of politicking. I'm a Pinot, right? I'm a politician in name only.
Yeah.
But, this whole idea, like Trudeau didn't get voted in. Harper got voted out.
Yeah.
Poilievre's not getting voted in. Trudeau's getting voted out.
Yeah. That's all it is.
And that's all it is. We're exchanging, and I'm not going to make any judgment on, I don't want to say it, out here, because I don't think that's our place. But whether it's Trudeau or Poilievre, there's really only 2 choices. And Do I think they're the best choices? No, I don't.
I don't either.
You know,
I know.
I will be supporting one of them, but and I just don't feel that those are the greatest options. I look south, and we certainly don't have the greatest options south. We certainly don't. I don't feel have the greatest options provincially. I felt municipally we did okay. We had some great options. So I think that was because you didn't have a party politic in our region. It's all individuals running municipally, right? In Vancouver, you vote in a group, you vote in a slate of people.
Yeah.
And that's led by one or the other. And I disagree with that form of politics. That's why I'm running as an independent, right? Because I feel that towing the party line eliminates a whole bunch of people from ever doing enough research on an issue.
Yeah.
Because they're being told how they're going to vote anyway. So why research?
Yeah.
You got people just going, okay, well, whatever. That's what I got. And they move along. And by having some independent control, I think the balance of power should be held by independents. If we had minority governments where the balance of power is held by a group of independents who are independent thinkers who are looking after their best, sort of what they feel is best, and the research tells them, because they have to do more research to get an equitable answer. I think that's a far better method of government.
Does it frustrate you, Mitchell, to see Canada lose so many opportunities when we are not building ourselves up first? And what I mean is that we just see so much infrastructure. Our wood goes south, or our wood goes to Asia. You know what I mean? We don't focus on. I'm sorry, but I'm a gas guy. I'm really extremely frustrated the fact that there's new rules now that you can't even run gas to new subdivisions now. I don't get it. Gas is clean. It's super clean. A lot cleaner than the private jets that are being flown all over this country by certain people. So it's just like I see this infrastructure just being whittled down to next to nothing when we've got such land and so much opportunity. And then the other argument is that we've got so many people that can come up with really creative ideas to make this nation a lot better, but we're not encouraging it. So then the alternative is that, and I'm sure you're seeing this, more and more contractors, tradespeople are leaving this country. They're going to go work in Costa Rica. They're going to go down to Florida, Texas. They're taking jobs up there, and they're going through that process because, those two states right there, zero income tax. How do you not argue that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Kirsty and I were having this conversation this morning before we started here. And I said, I remember 10, 12 years ago, I would be like, I'm never going to retire. I'm always going to be building something. I'm always going to be doing something. The guys who trained me, they were working until they're 70 or 75. They didn't. It wasn't because they had to.
Yeah.
They enjoyed it.
Yeah, they loved it.
And I looked at it and I was like, I'm going to, everybody used to ask, so are you going to retire? I'm like, no, I'll probably die doing the job. I wasn't planning on dying next year, which is a problem now. I feel like it's going to happen. And then the more I talk to people, guys who are 45 to 50, who are, a decade to half a decade behind me, they're trying to get out.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of that.
They're at a burnout level it's unprecedented. Like, I'm 56 and I'm thinking, okay, well, yeah, whatever. I was planning on doing this till I was in my 70s and do whatever. Like, I wasn't in any rush to go anywhere. It didn't feel like that. I feel like that's changed in the last 5 to 7 years. I feel like that it's like, oh, you know what? If there was an opportunity for me to move out and do something else to get away from the constant legislative changes, stuff that I don't believe in, stuff that, we're using natural resources to build houses, but we're not allowed to get the natural resources anymore. Yeah. And you're not allowed to cut trees, but you can only build with trees. Like, that's, we have a forest that they're shutting. Two of the biggest mills in BC got closed, last week by Canfor. And the general discussion is, it's because they couldn't get enough people to run the mills. The truth of the matter is, because I have a lot of people, I sit around and drink a lot of coffee between 5 and 7 o'clock in the morning with guys, is the truth of the matter is they can't get logs. The permit to get logging, to be able to run those mills, They can't get them. They're a year and a half, 2 years to get a permit to cut trees. So they've shut the mills down because literally there's nothing for them to mill. These thousands of people, and the knock-on effect of having the 500 employees that they say are out of work. If you listen to the province and the media, that's not really true, because the coffee shop's not busy now because that guy doesn't have a job and he's not buying a new car. He's not getting his car fixed. They're leaving the town because there's no work there, because it was a company town, or it was a mill town. But we still need the logs. We still need the material. So we're going to be importing it now. We'll be bringing that up from the U.S.
Are you ready to build a life that's not just fulfilling on the job site, but off the job site too? Welcome to Building Joy, the podcast series from TCL that's all about crafting a brighter, more satisfying existence in every corner of your life. I'm Manny Nevis, the host of the Construction Life TCL podcast, and together with happiness life coach Teresa Greco of the Steps to Happiness, we're laying the blueprint for true happiness. Every episode, we dive into real challenges and opportunities construction workers face in their pursuit for joy. From the long hours and the physical grind to the alliance and pride in the job well done. We're here to show you how to bring more joy into your work, your personal life, and everything in between. Got a story, a question, or just need some advice? We're all ears. Email us at manny@theconstructionlife.com or stepstotruehappiness@gmail.com, or drop us a message on social media at TCL_theconstructionlife or at Teresa Greco _steps to happiness. At Building Joy, we know that happiness isn't just a dream. It's something you can build, one brick at a time. So tune in, connect with us, and start laying the foundation for a happier, more fulfilled life. After all, the greatest structure you'll ever build is the life you lead. Join us on Building Joy, where we're constructing a better tomorrow, one episode at a time, because life's too short to settle for anything less than joy. You're importing logs in a country that has the second largest landmass of trees. You're importing logs, which it makes no sense. I know that I'm trying to remember his name, that one outdoorsy man back in the 70s who did way before YouTube. He actually built his own log cabin in the wilderness, and he survived for 30 years out there on his own. And I'm like, if you were to put a government program in place where it's like asking a lot of Canadian people, and I'm sure that a lot of men would probably jump at this, but I'm sure that there's a lot of women that would jump at it. Go here. Do you want to have an opportunity to build your own log house in the middle of Canada somewhere? I think there would be a waiting list of people, Canadians, that would want to do that. I think we would take such pride in building these structures and getting them out there. And that's taking care of some housing right there. You know, a lot more people would do that, but it doesn't benefit the overall agenda of what's going on. And it's unfortunate. I mean, the real argument when you start talking to the young generation, and I see that, I think you're being very grateful regarding the 45, 50-year-old, because I'm seeing it in the late 20s, early 30s. I'm seeing tradespeople that are just getting in and realizing what's in front of them. You know, because when you got into construction, you didn't think 10 years in front of you. You thought much further because you saw possibilities. I'm going to do one rental. One rental is going to lead to a second rental. And then eventually I'm going to get the opportunity to build a house. Then I'm going to build the first house, then the second house. Then I'm going to partner with somebody. You started seeing that long. These days, what they're doing is 4 months, 5 months of my income is going to the government. Why am I going to stay in this industry? Why am I going to stay in this country? And it's unfortunate because you're losing good people that actually have the skill set, that deserve to be in this industry, to work and provide for Canada. And they're being pushed out. And it's unfortunate. And then their whole goal is trying to get more in. But we don't need more in. We need to treat the ones that are here better.
And we've discouraged it. The federal government just discouraged it again. So I've got guys, and I look at them and I'm like, listen, if you guys want to be here, I get it. I love the fact that you're still working here, but I know you can go here and make more money with a pension. I know that you can go and work as an offshoot or a company that does government contracts, and you're going to get a pension. Essentially, you're a government employee just once removed. Yeah. And you're going to make more money. I understand that. I can't pay you the hourly wage that company can pay you, and the benefits and everything else. So I can't. When I first started, I was like, I'm going to build a company that never has guys have time off because of lack of work, and I'm going to have medical and dental. I was a bleeding heart liberal when I was in my 20s, as we all, I think, are at some point. And so I wanted to build a company that gave me all the things that I didn't have in the previous 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And ideology. So I have been able to do that for the last 22 years. I have been able to do that. We were a fairly small company. We're the biggest little construction company you'd never heard of. And we were building 15, $3 to $5 million custom homes every year, literally within 6 miles of our house. And I was able to provide medical and dental and life insurance and all of that stuff for the guys. But that's been stripped away within the last 6 years. I can no longer afford it. My billing rate's too high so that I'm no longer competitive. We got added for sick days and a couple of extra holidays in there. And suddenly your billing rate's like, okay, well, I got to keep going up. And then the MSP got wiped into us, anything over $500,000 in payroll. Oh, we'll pay that too. Take it away from the citizen, dump it on business. But if I worked for government, that would all be fine. I'd have a pension. Or if I worked for any of those companies that work for government, I'd have a pension. But now, even the doctors in this province, who they don't have a pension, so they bought investment property. They made investments, and now the government's saying, okay, well, we're going to tax those investments.
Yeah,
they're all leaving. Like there's a mass exodus. I had four $4 million contracts canceled on me in the last 6 months.
You're not the only one. There's several builders that are being in that same situation.
And that's strictly, that's what our government has done. And then literally, what was that? That was a week ago. It was this week. I saw in the news that the government is blaming contractors. That there's not enough contractors, and that's why there's a housing crisis. I laughed out loud. I'm like, really? We took a snapshot of the TV screen, right? Of course, we can't just post it on social media.
No,
that's not allowed.
I know.
I take pictures of the TV and post that on social media because they don't take that down. They haven't figured that out.
Like Mitchell, the disconnect is staggering. Like I gotten so tired where I recently did a video and I said, there is no labor shortage. Stop talking about labor shortage. The problem that we have right now is that we have too many people getting into construction where they can't find work. They just can't find a job. And if you take all levels of construction, whether it's an entry level small business owner who does rentals or something like that, they're not going to take anybody on because they're right down bare bones to themselves, and maybe a child of theirs, or a friend of theirs is working with them because that's all they can afford to operate their business right now. Then you start looking at the top. I know for a fact in Ontario, half of the drywall union is at home. Half of the drywall union is at home. Because high-rise and pre-con has completely stopped in this province. So how can you stand there as a politician and say on the media that we need more people in the construction? No, what we need is less government in construction to let us build what we need to build to attract more people to those positions, because the people are there. The jobs are not there. You're stopping us from getting the jobs. Like you just said, you changed the housing, the zoning, and now you're asking people to do all these things, but you're not getting the permits to get the approval to get going. We have the same problem here. I can only assume the same problem is happening in other provinces and other territories, right? I don't understand how we're not creating the work, but we can't create the work because you're also tying our hands regarding the whole greenwashing. You know what I mean? I'm all for saving this planet and everything like that, but there's limitations on how much to save and what's really cost effective down the line. I just recently read this week, there's a massive recall on 3 of them automakers regarding EVs and hybrid units because of parked vehicles igniting their batteries. They're catching on fire in the garages. So it's like you're asking people to buy these EV units, but how are you charging these units? Where's that energy coming from? They're storage units. They're not energy units. They don't produce energy. They store it. So can we please just start telling the truth on everything? And we've got a nation that has a lot of trees that are ready to be picked, are ready to cut down, are ready to go to a mill, are ready to provide work for people. There's so much opportunity here. I'm sorry, but we should be digging in Alberta. We should be getting oil out of there. The sand that should have been continuing. Like it wasn't destroying this country. It wasn't. It was providing jobs. It was providing a really fair wage and a fair amount for gas, for fuel. I stopped calling fossil fuel fossil. It was ridiculous. We all know the story behind that. It's that word alone is garbage. It's all marketing. Right now, government is about marketing. A person who wants to get into government, for the most part, most of the time it's on a federal level, they say everything to get in, and then they say everything to stay in.
The stay in part is what really gets me, is that I'm going to stay in and I'll say whatever it takes
to stay in. That's it.
My position here.
It has nothing to do with the person, with the citizens. It has nothing to do with what can I do for you, right? Like it's very embarrassing that there is so much taxpayer dollar being spent on security and safety for one individual. I've never seen it in this country where you'll see other members of parliament walk around free willy. Like they don't have that kind of security. Now you got to start to question, why do we need all this security? What has happened as a result of it? And I just want to bring up, Mitchell, like the idea is that a lot of people ask me my opinion because they think I have a good barometer of what's going on. And I just say, listen, how do we fix this? Like, how do you change Canada back to where it was on course? It was doing well. How do you get back there? I've told everybody right now, we're a $41 million test subject product. That's what we are. We were tested, right? Which is unfortunate. And then a small percentage is leaving. And that's the unfortunate part of this thing. And you can't have these people leave. People are leaving construction. People are leaving the country. Small business owners are leaving. They're being gobbled up. It's just like we should be thriving. We should be embracing all new ideas. We should be. Yesterday, I recorded a show with somebody and she presented the idea of like, whatever happened to science fairs? And I was like, yeah, whatever happened to science fairs? Science fairs is where you had kids come up with crazy ideas. Whether they worked or not, but they were still good ideas that you can go, you know what, there's something in that nugget. And that's what we need in construction, right? It's all gone. Like the shops are gone. Any thought process is gone regarding working with your hands. And then I'm not afraid about AI in construction. I'm not afraid about that because I know that we can integrate it, no problem. We can bring in, we're seeing stuff that will help you physically, help you mentally, help you with the task at hand. I get it. And there's going to be some adoption going on there, but you still need to physically do something to create a project, right? And you need to get that workforce. But how do you argue with a workforce that tells you 4 months, 5 months of their salary is gone? Like gone. I wouldn't want to work at that job.
That's been our world for a while, right? Where it's July now before they say you're taking home a cent. I don't believe that. I think it's actually September. I think by the time you start really doing the math and the hidden taxes and everything else, it's really difficult to prove that. But I think we're way further down the line. But I'm going to run back, Manny, to what you were saying about us needing people in construction. Pardon me. In 2017, 18, that was the truth. But the government is so far behind, they haven't even realized what they've done. Yeah. That's absolutely stopped building. So all those companies that were driving around with, we're hiring and, oh, you've got a heartbeat. Yeah, you're hired. Those days are long gone.
Yep.
And they're still sitting there going, oh, we need more people. That is not the case. You chased people out of this industry and they would come back if there was some promise or any sort of long-term success rate that wasn't just a 2 or 3 year blip that said, oh, I can go back and do construction for 2 or 3 years and then the government will change the rule and it'll tank again, and then you mentioned the tar sands. Like what people forget is that the tar sands was oil boiling out of the ground into the waterways. There's pictures of it. The tar sands were black. They were going to poison every single river from northern Alberta because it was boiling out of the ground and they were capturing it and using it. But we've somehow forgotten that. We've forgotten that the boreal forest, which we have a third of, we have 200,000 trees for every individual that lives in this country in the boreal forest. It's a renewable resource. There's no trees in this country that are 2,500 years old.
No.
Like it's a pretty young forest. A lot of these pine cones, they need forest fire to pop them open. Yeah. They sit there dormant until it burns. It's a cyclical issue.
Yep.
Do I believe with environment change? I believe in environment change. It's happened. It's happened forever. Is it accelerated? Potentially, yes, but it's also been accelerating as time went on too. Do I believe we can do better to save the earth? Yeah, I think that giant plastic packaging, single use to protect a little tip that you're going to buy, I think that's ridiculous. Yeah. I think that that kind of stuff, it's the simple stuff that we should be focusing on first. Let's change the micro stuff, or I guess it's the macro stuff.
Yeah.
Let's change that's easy and work our way down. We've started, we had a Tesla, I was an early uptake Tesla driver, right, in 2015. It was $107,000 for a Tesla Model S. So in that same year, I bought a Mercedes Sprinter diesel. So in the first year that we owned it, the Tesla went 10,000 kilometers. My Mercedes Sprinter went 35,000 kilometers.
Okay.
So we spent all this money on this, quote, luxury car that went nowhere. And the truck that they actually made electric Sprinters, even back then,
I know,
weren't allowed into the country. So I'm like, is this political? Or is this actual about saving something? Because if it was about saving something, the electric Sprinter would have been here and I would have been able to buy it, and I would have bought it. We had the Tesla for 1 year and we got rid of it. That was it. And I'm like, okay, well, that was a great experiment. My kids got headaches in the back seat. One of my clients who also built electric cars had said, because I looked up the EMF, and he's like, oh, it's less than your cell phone. It's this, and that, and the next thing. And then I said, well, my kids get headaches. We got rid of the car almost immediately. We stopped driving it. We got something else. And then a year and a half later, my client comes back to me and says, oh, it's the regenerative braking. It's proven that it can give you headaches and your body has to get used to it. And I'm like, okay, so I was right. He's like, oh, absolutely. He says, but nobody's talking about that.
Attention aspiring tradespeople and entrepreneurs. Looking to break into the skilled trades or start your own home service business? Meet TradeLinks Consulting, your go-to partner for success. At TradeLinks Consulting, they're passionate about helping you find the right trade, build your business, and mentor the next generation. Whether you're exploring your options or ready to take the plunge, they offer tailored career consulting and startup guidance to get you on the right track. Visit them at www.tradelinkconsulting.ca today and book your personalized strategy session. Your future in the skilled trade starts here. This message is proudly supported by the Construction Life.
So
It is political because look at the federal government just imposed a 100% tariff tax on the cheapest EV coming from China. Like if I see an EV vehicle like that and the price of it, I would be like, container ship after container ship after container ship, head your way to Canada, please. Head your way to Canada. Sure. But you can't sell a $30,000 EV vehicle in Toronto, in Canada. You can't do it. Why can't you do it? It becomes political at that point. It makes no sense. That's why we should be looking at the global stage, right? Look at the global stage and see what other countries are doing, what products that they're selling. And then also the reverse. Start building products here in Canada that other countries want to buy from us. Like it solves two problems. It creates a workforce to produce this product, and then it generates income to, for the country. That's what it does. So you don't need to increase taxes, right? But I'm not a politician. You're getting in this escape. I wish you all the best to get in there and make a change, and hopefully you will make a change. Hopefully you will get it, and then you'll get an opportunity to go in there. But it's such a challenge to get in there because you're playing with everybody else that's such a career. They've almost perfected the fine art of saying the right thing to get nothing done.
And that's a good way to put it, right? It's basically getting in there. And undoubtedly I rub people the wrong way, and hopefully the message that I'm able to speak, people identify with. People, when I speak to them as individuals, can identify. I'm not great at standing up in front of the crowd and rah sister. That's not my right. That's it. I went to an event yesterday where they were moving a house that they down onto one of the reserve lands that somebody was tearing down. So there's a group called Renewal who is moving old houses or any house, and they can move them down onto reserve land. And some of the local politicians were out there speaking about how this is so great and everything else. And I'm like, okay, it is great, except I can't move them onto anywhere other than reserve land because they won't meet the code and you won't accept them. But the reserve land doesn't have the same code. So if somebody wanted to move that house internally inside our municipality, onto their building lot or create homeless, shelter for homeless and stuff like that. They couldn't do it. It can only go to reserve land, but those politicians are out there. I had a very difficult time. Like I said, I had a very difficult time going up and saying, "Hi, I'm Mitchell. I'm running for MLA." Yeah. Right. I'm watching other people do that, and I'm not that rah, yay me, look at me, look what I'm going to do. But there was a bunch of people, few people in that crowd. I was able to go up and say, "Oh, hey, this is great. This is a great opportunity for the Indigenous community. It's too bad that we couldn't do this with around the whole municipality. There's lots of people that could use this too, but the municipality won't allow that to happen. But as on an individual basis, I can do that. But the rah out there and pump myself up just so I can get into power and then stay into power and say whatever it takes. Like I'm not Prince Machiavelli.
Yeah,
I am. I say what I mean, and I will do what I say. That's the way I've always been, and I think there needs to be more people like that. Not more of me, but more people like that who are committed to not a party ideology, but actually what's fair for everybody. Something more middle of the road, left. I think that's where we've fallen apart as a country. Is that the division is just so vast. It's very hard. It's going to be very difficult to stitch it back together.
That's where I was saying. It's like a lot of people are just figuring I can't fight this, so they just leave. Like, and I think I told you on the phone when we first chatted last week, I'm still confused how it's 2024 and Indigenous communities don't have fresh, clean drinking water. Like, I don't understand that, right? But it's also been proven for a fact that your water is a lot cleaner than our water. The amount of extra chemicals that we have in our water, which have contributed to issues, that's not being addressed. I don't understand how the health concerns are not being addressed here. Like, I'm still confused on how we have to secretly look around the country and speak to people about trying to get proper eggs from proper farmers instead of purchasing eggs from the system. And then the latest is raw milk, how raw milk is outlawed in this entire country. You're not allowed to sell it, consume it, or whatever. But there's lots of health. I mean, our federal government is clamping down on what you can purchase on Amazon regarding, supplements. And I'm like, I don't like the health of it's like, I don't understand that. And it's very confusing. What other problems do you see, Mitchell, forecasting and construction that the government is imposing? We know that the biggest one is all the gatekeeping preventing us from actually doing the projects, right? But other than that, it seems like their hot button topic is just trying to get more marketing literature out there to get more people into construction. But you can't have everybody racing towards the finish line and all of a sudden tell them, hang on a sec, turn around and start at the beginning again, because they're not going to stay in this construction industry. So it's like, what are the problems you're seeing that the government, I know you guys out there, all new subdivisions are all electric. You're not running gas anymore. I think that there's also, you guys have a lot more stricter guidelines regarding code wise, which I'm slightly envious because you have more seismic issues to deal with, but you also building stronger to last longer. You're building for more extreme mother nature situations, so you do get more precipitation. So your extreme membranes and waterproofing and everything else, that's a far better than ours out here. What else is going on that they're bringing down that you're seeing?
Well, hey, just to sort a few of the guys that I've built for they run some of the bigger high-rise companies. And so I sat down with one of them the other day, one of the presidents of the company, and he says that the bigger builders, like some of the biggest builders in this province, have sat down with the province and said, stop changing the code. We can't keep up, and we cannot afford to start a project with the new codes. Just stop changing. We can't get any consistency. The products that we're using are untested. Like we're using so many products in our industry that are untested. And you and I spoke about this last week, when it started with Tyvek in the 80s. Tyvek was this be all and end all. Oh my God, use Tyvek. And then it was like, oh my God, don't use Tyvek. And then it was like, oh, again. So we're dealing with this. We're dealing with this across the board. Like we're putting Roxol into buildings, and Roxol's great. It's great today. Maybe there's a problem with it. There's no long-term solution. Hey, we're going to use PEX pipe. We went through Poly B. We failed on Poly 80s and ruined billions and billions of dollars worth of product. Now we're using PEX, and we're going to use Wurzel, and we're going to use copper and everything. Oh, we're getting lead for the copper, but the copper's washing out in your pipes. Like there doesn't seem to be a perfect solution, but there doesn't seem to be enough research done before this stuff is introduced to market.
Yeah.
Right. But we're putting rain screen on buildings. And I was like, okay, well, so we've created a bunch of chimneys on the outside of buildings. So if there's a fire on the outside of the building, we have a vent at the top and a vent at the bottom, and we have combustible material in behind the siding. Perfect. That is a chimney. We just created chimneys, and they were to be vented into the soffits. So now we have soft fires, our fire stopping regulations. Like we just keep adding and adding and adding. There's only so many rules we can add without going back and saying, hey, some of these were wrong. We need to pull these out. We can't just keep adding laws to an infinitely high stack of books of law without revisiting some and say, this stuff didn't work.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to slow down on the changes and let some of this stuff settle out instead of just blindly changing it. You know, the triple glazed I-89 argon filled windows. Like, what are we gaining there? We gain, I think, 20% by doing that over the 50% that we gained from single pane windows. Yeah. So double pane windows are way better option to stay at double pane than go to triple pane.
Yeah.
You know, because the costs, the significant cost change there. And how do you as a builder or a developer whose developers, everybody, it's like a dirty word in Vancouver. You know, oh, you're a developer. Oh, these guys are developers. Look at all the money they're making. Well, who's going to build this stuff if they don't? Like, is the government going to build it? Is that the goal, that government controls all housing? Because that's not what government's job was. Government's job was to collect money, put it into a pool so that we didn't have to build, you know, the asphalt out in front of our house by ourselves and the neighbor do it.
Yeah.
And spread it out for the benefit of all. The benefit of all is not the government being involved in housing. That is of no benefit. And they're changing it to the point now where they are going to be, it looks like they're trying to be the builders and the developers, which is absolutely bizarre to me. And our tax dollars are being spent to have that program move forward. Like, I don't get it. Like, we're being told what to build. The province of BC just came out with plans. Oh, well, these plans are great for your 4 and 6plex. This will expedite the process of building your 4 or your 6plex. You know, design was not the issue here.
Yeah.
Permitting and cost was the issue of those permits. Like, the design of the building was not what was slowing this down, you know, at all. And yet they spent our tax dollars designing these buildings and putting them out, going, look, we've solved this huge problem, and told us what a great job they did. And I'm like, this is hugely problematic.
I think it'd be an interesting experiment to actually take everybody in construction to get into politics for 1 month, and then everybody in politics to get into construction for 1 month, and see what happens to the two industries.
Right.
I think a lot of contractors would get a lot of stuff done. You know, they would get a lot of stuff done, and I don't think they would build a wall on a construction site. I don't think they'd be able to get a single wall up in a month. They wouldn't know what to do. And then, I mean, just the amount of injury reports that would be coming out of that experiment, right?
There'd be committees on how to build a wall.
But I'm not confident, Mitchell. I'm really not confident that this can turn better. I really I mean, I've had so many conversations of people leaving, trying to figure out where to go. They're talking about it going different places. The nice thing is that culturally speaking, you're getting a lot of people, because construction is full of a lot of different, I call them a colorful cast of characters. You know, like they're a bunch of people that are, you know, down to earth, hardworking individuals, come from all different kinds of places. I was just talking to a gentleman on the phone yesterday, because he's coming on the show to do a roundtable show that we're going to do about tile setters, and I was speaking to him, and he had a very strong accent, and he was like, "Listen, my English is not the greatest," and I was like, "I can totally understand where you." And he goes, "Well," and he asked me, "Where do you think I'm from?" Right? So I was looking at his name, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to guess Eastern European. He goes, yeah, you're right, but whereabouts? And then I started looking at it, and then finally I guess it was Polish, and he was right, and I was right. And all of a sudden I was like, yeah, there's so many people that you meet that come from different cultures. And what I'm seeing now is that the younger generation is going back to their roots, and they're considering going back to where the family came from, and almost rebuilding that instead of rebuilding Canada. It's a double edge because it's a nice thought, but we lose here, they gain there. That's the unfortunate thing.
A lot of them came here with a promise.
Yeah.
The promise of the government, it's advertised that, oh, you're going to be able to do this, and it's the land of opportunity and free. And there's a lot of people that are leaving going, I was lied to. And, there's a lots of East Indian tradespeople here. We work with a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, the diversity of the culture, I think, is great. You sit down, oh, would you like some Indian tea? Yeah. And I'm like, no, burners and stuff like that. And some of them won't speak. A lot of the guys won't speak. They're like, oh, sorry, my English is bad. And I'm like, listen, it's a lot better than my Punjabi. So you're doing great. We Punjabi at all, right? Yeah. And but that diversity, I love it. We have a lot to learn as a society. Yeah. When we hire them as framers, and they'd come in, and there'd be grandpa. There'd be, grandpa's in his 70s or 80s. He's putting nails into hangers. There's the lead guy. There's a few cousins and uncles, and then one of the kids there for the summer, and he's 12 or 13, and each one has a job. And they show up. They have their tea and their lunch at the same time. There's 12 or 13 of them that sit down. They spend all that family time together. They sit down. They work late. They come late. They come at 9 to 10 o'clock, but they work till 6 or 7 o'clock. And they've worked with 3 or 4 generations of people on the same site. And then they all go home, and yeah, they may all live in a big giant house together. But I'm like, we lost that at 18 years old. Get out, right? Hey, go and live on your own. Yeah. I'll see you when you get your act together and you finished whatever you're going to do, then you can come home for Sunday dinner. I think our society needs to be built a little bit more. We need to look outside the walls of what we're used to, or it's not constraints, but our society is like 18 years old, 19 years old. You're out of the house, you finish school, go to university. Maybe you can stay for university, but then you're out. And that is not the way a huge portion of the world works. And we need to take a page out of that. And I envy that part of it. And as a business, we tried to have the guys. I've got 2 family members that work for me, work with me, I like to say, because, working for the man. Yeah. And I think that diversity, like you talked about, I think that's super important. And if we start to turn those people off, then we're going to have a way bigger problem than we're seeing right now, because those guys are happy to be here. Yeah. And if suddenly we make it unfavorable for them to be in this trade and to build stuff and to create things, we're going to have an enormous problem. And I think like you said, we're starting to see it. We're starting to see a turn where people are like, you know what? I can't, it's not viable for us to stay here as a family. So-and-so is going to go and do this, and so-and-so is going to go and do that. This guy's going to go and drive a truck, and this guy's going to go and go into finance or into computers, as compared to, saying, hey, we're a construction family. We've always been a construction family. Let's keep moving forward with this. It's very discouraging to see that people will leave because they're forced out of it.
Meet Felipe, the visionary behind Versa Homes, a name synonymous with excellence in construction across British Columbia. Felipe's passion for high-end craftsmanship, sparked by his mentor Dan Zeklin, drives him to deliver exceptional results in every project. At Versa Homes, every detail matters, and Felipe's unwavering commitment to precision ensures that each project meets the highest standards. Client satisfaction is more than just a goal, it's at the heart of everything Felipe does. He's dedicated to making the construction process smooth and stress-free, keeping projects on time, within budget, and meticulously organized. If you're looking for a builder in British Columbia who values quality and client care as much as you do, look no further. Discover what sets Versa Homes apart. Reach them at www.versahomes.com or call them today at 778-65-BUILD, B-U-I-L-D, or connect with them on social media under @VersaHomes. Versa Homes, where your vision meets their commitment to excellence. This message is proudly supported by the Construction Life. Well, they crunch the numbers, right? And it's not just construction. I'm still seeing it from a lot of I'm pretty sure that, Mitchell, you probably got your driver's license at 16, right? At the moment that you could get the test or book the test or take the course, you got your driver's license, right? And then I'm sure that, like me, you steal dad's car whenever you got a chance. It wasn't considered theft. It was just considered boring and learning some driving lessons at the time because it was safe on the road to do that. It was fewer cars. It was as simple as that. But you're getting a whole generation now that's getting into their late 20s, don't even have a driver's license. And then you speak to them and they're like, what's the point? I can't afford a car. So I'll never buy a car. So then I don't need a car. And then I'll just use Uber. I'll use taxi. I'll use public. And that's such a shame because you should be getting your driver's license. You should be looking at trying to get a vehicle. But yeah, if you're forcing everybody to go EVs, you're talking about 6-figure vehicles, and then talk about another tax. There's a luxury tax on top of a vehicle that's over $100,000. That makes no sense to me. So there's so many things that they keep on doing things, preventing people from actually doing what we achieved when we were younger. And now they can't even do those things. So it's like the housing discussion is out to lunch. Like I think this entire generation now has realized I'll never be able to afford a house. I'll be able to afford part of a house, and that's where the different levels and those kinds of things, that's where it's coming in from.
Yeah. I mean, the whole licensing thing to me, we talk about autonomous cars and that's a whole separate thing, but they're discouraging people from having cars, right? They're discouraging people that you don't need parking spots. You don't need this. It's the end of individuality. One of the greatest inventions of our time was the automobile. Yeah. And it wasn't our generations before, the silent generation, where suddenly you had the freedom to travel outside of a rail track.
Yeah.
Right. That was literally the greatest freedom granted to humanity was the automobile. And now it's the enemy. And, we're going to make 15-minute cities and you're not going to need a car. No, I want a car. I want to be able to explore what's outside. I want to see outside the region of the concrete wall that's put in front of me. And we're killing the futures of some of our kids by allowing that to happen. And human nature is to explore. Human nature is to be competitive.
Yep.
We are trying society, or it feels like government is trying to beat that out of us, beat out the spirit of competition, beat out the spirit of individuality, like beat out success. Success is now the enemy.
Yeah.
Right. We've villainized being successful, right, and stigmatized being poor. So there's only one place in the middle, and that's where they feel they want us all. And I have a real problem with that. Human nature is going to. Haven't we all watched the movie?
Yeah.
Where everybody's, and then it all ends in bombs with two people kissing outside. Like when humanity becomes humanity again, we've seen the movie 100 times, and the not getting your driver's license is really the first step. If you don't get your driver's license by the time you move out of the house, the chances of getting it are very slim.
Yeah. Because
you need somebody's car to drive, and your friends aren't going to let you drive their car to go to work and stuff like that, to be in the car, to get the exercise with a car, to get your license. So it's incumbent upon our parents, or the parents, to encourage, like both of my girls, one bought a car at 14 and the other one at 15, right? And they're 16 and 17. Yeah. And I'm like, I need to do this. One of them, I think, bought it out of spite because I bought my first car when I was 15. And she's like,
So well, that's great that she did that. No, and that's rare nowadays. Like that's not happening.
No. And I think it's our responsibility to parent our kids, and the generation. And, we have a lot of young guys that come through this company, and women, young girls too, young women. And, I'm like, we have some senior guys who sort of, the guy who trained me worked for me up until a couple of years ago. And it took me forever to get him on board. And unfortunately, business has been slowing down progressively over the last 3 years. And I've had to cut crew. Yeah. And, what sucks, but the young people would come in and they're like, oh, we're sitting with all the senior guys. Like one of the guys is the elder in his church, and the other guy plays the local Santa Claus, right? So there's all this varied groups of people in our company that these guys gleaned information from at a rapid pace, and like, holy shit, man, like this is the greatest place to work. Yeah. And I think that's the only way we're able to hold as great a crew is because of the diversity of our crew. And now as that slips away, you're like, the guys are going to start to look elsewhere. And that sucks. You know, we had guys that didn't have their driver's license. That's where it started, is they didn't have their driver's license because they lived in Ontario and they didn't need it. They would walk and take the bus everywhere. And then they got out here and they're like, I get a driver's license. This kid's 44 years old and he couldn't get it because he couldn't get enough experience driving. I couldn't pay him enough. I was overpaying him anyway, but I couldn't pay. He could go and hire a car to be able to drive it around enough to get experience. So he failed his test 3 times. And finally he got demoralized and moved back to Ontario to his mom's. Like, this is an unfortunate situation, right? And I think it's incumbent upon us as parents to be able to say, this is a really unpopular decision. I know you're going to hate me for forcing you to go and get your license and force you to do this, but you will thank me 15 years. For sure. And we do not, as a society, we don't do that. It's nobody wants to be the bad guy. Everybody wants to be their kid's best friend. I'm sure you do this, Mitchell, but I what I do is whenever I have a kid ask me about construction, I don't sugarcoat it. I talk the truth. I just tell them exactly the reality of what construction is. And then they do have that deer in the headlight look on their face because the brochures never expressed a single word that I expressed. And it's unfortunate that, well, it was written by somebody who's not in construction. There's a difference between the two, which leads me to think, like, there are plenty of books out there about getting into construction, right? And then there's possibly plenty of books that are assessing political landscapes, right? But the thing is, you really don't understand construction until you get on the job site and start working as a team, as a collaborative effort with other people and understanding their trades and what they do. And then you get a grasp of it. You can read as much as you want. You can watch as many YouTube videos as you want. You will really not understand construction until you're on the site smelling the sawdust. And are you looking forward to that political, that you get in? And I'm sure that you've done your research. You're looking at doing things slightly different, and you're trying to meet as many people to explain to them, I'm not a politician. I'm a tradesperson who sees that we need to change things here. But are you nervous that when you do get into the politics side of things, you won't? They'll change you versus you change them. Like, are you really nervous about that? I'm not nervous about me being changed. I don't think so. I don't think it'll happen, but they'll try. Yeah, and many have. Many have failed. Here's a testament. She's tried. We get to a certain age, and you're like, good luck. It's never going to happen, right? Now, man, like that's the change part of this is over. Not that I can't adapt, but I'm not changing. And when you talk about speaking to the young guys and sugarcoating it, like, there's great days, and I tell guys that. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Driving around, and you're like, yeah, I'm the king of the world. This is the coolest job ever. Like, this is fantastic. I love the winning of the contract and finishing the house, and when everybody's doing their thing and the hammers are all running, and you can tell that there's a knowledge and experience level on that job just by the sound of the nails getting pounded and how it's being run. And you're like, oh. And then there's a couple of, like, I love to sing at work. That's the most de-stressful thing for me. When I'm singing, guys know that I'm not stressed, right? They know the zone, right? And then we'll sing Christmas carols all year just because they're easy and every word. Yeah. Those are the things that I like to impart to the guys. There's going to be tough times where you're digging ditches and you're fighting to get paid, and you feel like you're battling uphill and pushing a piece of string everywhere. Those are the tough days. But we also sit around and I'm like, hey guys, do you guys need a hug? Somebody who's like, right? Like, you need that personal connection, which I don't think you're getting in a lot of other industries. So the industry has been great, that you're mano a mano, right? You're there. Like it is a team. You're team building. You have a common goal. And as much as some days it really bites, there's other days that make up for that.
Yeah.
And that held me in it, right? So I'd like to think that in government, if I'm able to achieve to get into government, that we can build consensus and we can build a team as compared to coming in as 93 adversaries, that, it's this team and that team. Hey, we're all here for the same goal, aren't we? Aren't we all here to make the province a better place? And yes, we will have differences. We will not, if everybody was the same, it would be very boring. But if everybody can come together and say, hey, I need a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and hey, this is I think a good pathway forward. I'd like to be able to think that I have the ability to help build that consensus, and without being changed myself, I will obviously learn. Like that's imperative. Like to be able to understand somebody else's opinion and go like, oh yeah, you know what? I was wrong. My idea needs to change of what's happening here. So yes, in that way, I will change because I will adapt and understand more. I will learn more and educate myself to the point where, oh yeah, you know what? My thinking here is incorrect. So I have to change.
Yeah.
And I turn to my constituents and say, hey, this is what I thought to begin with. And here's why I changed. Here's why my opinion or my philosophy on this particular item has moved away from where I thought it was going to be. And I think that there's less of that in government than more of that needs to happen in government. It's not happening enough.
Well, that's construction right there. Like we adapt. I mean, you're not building the same way that you built 20, 30 years ago. You've adapted, you learn new ideas. And that's what the beauty of construction is all about, where every tradesperson experiences that. They go through it and like when they get older and they have this knowledge and this experience, they can blink and they can get stuff done. But when they were getting started, there was 1,000 blinks and they got nothing done, right? That's just how it is. That's how it evolves. And I commend you to get into politics and then having that mindset where, listen, this is how we solve it on a job site. And in my opinion, this room, this office that I'm in, that I was just awarded, this is a job site and I need to get to work. That's how I'm looking at you, looking at this approach, right? Where it's like, let's get to work. Consider Expert Plumbing and Drains. When it comes to plumbing, you need someone who's not just skilled, but truly cares about the job they do. Someone like Aaron Bolin and his team at Expert Plumbing and Drains. Aaron has been in the trade for years, and he's built his reputation on one thing: commitment. Commitment to his craft, his crew, and most importantly to you, the client. At Expert Plumbing and Drains, it's not just fixing pipes, it's about delivering the best possible service every single time on every single project. So whether you're dealing with a leaky faucet, a stubborn drain, or planning a full plumbing overhaul, Aaron and his team are ready to tackle it all with skill, integrity, and a passion for excellence. Need help now? Call Expert Plumbing and Drains at 905-531-4111. That's 905-531-4111. Or visit them at www.expertplumbinganddrains.com and on social media at Expert Plumbing and Drains Canada. Experience the difference of working with a team that's dedicated to getting the job done right. Because at Expert Plumbing and Drains, your satisfaction is their top priority. You can also email Aaron directly at aaron@expertplumbinganddrains.com. Expert Plumbing and Drains, where expertise meets care. This message is proudly supported by the Construction Life.
Yeah. I remember, when I was young and, you feel like you have all the confidence in the world.
Yeah.
And then I remember the first days on the job, like out here, we build on a lot of rock and a lot of uneven rock. And I remember sitting on this one job, it was 1996, and it's an average 512 pitch rock, craggy, and the house is 161 feet long. I'm trying to put plates down, and I'm like, well, where do I start? Right. And the plates were bolted to the rock with 3/8 bolts. And so there was no area where a plate that was more than 4 feet long could be bolted to the rock. So you're doing it in 12-inch sections and everything like that. And I remember bringing the guys together saying, hey guys, this is scary shit. I've never done this before. I'm your boss, but I've never done this before. there's a handful of guys in West Vancouver that have done this at this point. And if you guys have any suggestions, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Because I'm new to this. Anyway, we put the first piece down, and then you're like, oh, hey, look, I can see there's a piece down. And then you start it, and you built from there. It is, I've referred back to that particular house numerous times. The scariest part was getting started.
Yeah.
As soon as you had something in the ground, you're like, oh yeah, okay, now I've got an idea of where we're going to go with this. But everybody else's consensus, even if I hired you yesterday, you might have an idea that I haven't thought of.
Yep.
Right? Oh, hey, maybe we could do this. Maybe, why don't you park your truck over there and we'll put the string line on the back of your truck. It's 60 feet past the job site, but that's the only place we can get a logical elevation at the same height that we can pull a straight line. Oh, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. So back the van down, hook it onto the roof rack, right? And away we go. Now we're plumbing down off at least a straight line. Those aren't my ideas. I can't have all the ideas. I can't be the only one who's using a brain. So I encourage everybody to use their brain, come up with the thoughts. Let's brainstorm. Let's do it as a consensus. I've done it since I was a kid. And I consider a kid when I was 22 when I started in business. And I still do it today. I walk onto the site, and if I have the solution, I'll be like, yeah, here is the solution. I want it done this way. Or I'm going to say like, hey, if you guys, we got to get this, a 800-pound steel stair stringer out of the truck a month ago, right? Everybody, I'm not there. The guys are doing it their own way. I get there. I said, hey, why don't we try this? And then we get partway through it, and one of the young guys goes, he's 21. He's like, well, if we did this, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, let's just do that. It's way simpler than my way. All the years of experience doesn't mean nothing in the face of a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. Better idea. So we have to be adaptable to those new and better ideas. Not everybody has all the answers. And I think as in government, I think that would be my strongest asset, is that I can build consensus and I can take in a lot of different information and sort of channel it on the fly and say, hey, how about this? I'm better at processing, and that is because of construction.
Good.
You're building a house. I've always said it. We're taking wood that's never been cut, that's never been put in place, it's never been nailed together, and every single piece is different. And every time, this house has never been built before. It got designed. It's never been built or designed or anything, because everything we did was custom. We've never poured concrete over this rock or done anything like that. So everything we did every single day was new and had never been done before. And yeah, we weren't building bridges or brain surgery, but we were doing something that was...
No, you're building something from scratch, and you just described the perfect bunch of people to actually run this country. Because the ones that are building everything from scratch right now, and that has been for a while, haven't been doing a good job. They get a box of items with no instructions, and then they try to figure it out, and they don't do a good job. But then you leave it to the contractors, tradespeople, everybody, workforce, and they'll figure it out without any instructions. Instructions help, but they'll figure it out.
So are you coming with me, Manny?
I've said several times, I probably get a lot of knocks on the door, or maybe just a little tap on the window, just be careful what you're saying, things like that, right? Like I'll continue ruffling feathers, and that's the extent of it. But I do want to be an old man one day, a really old man. So I respect that you're going down that path. I really hope you get it. I really do, honestly. Like I'll endorse. I can't vote for you because I'm not from BC, but I've got a lot of BC friends out there, and I'm definitely, they're going to hear this show and they're going to talk to you. And there's lots of guys out there that are building amazing projects, but they're going through the exact same thing you're going through. They're just trying to survive. They're trying to build a business. They're trying to build a brand. They're trying to create a workforce. They're trying to give people, some income so they can help for their families. They're trying to build a community. They're just trying. Everybody's trying, and the unfortunate thing is the group of people that are not trying are in government right now. And I think we need to change that and get more people like yourself trying. That's like I would respect people trying, and if it failed, own up to it and then try again, and then try, keep on trying. But currently what's going on is not working, so it needs to change. And you're 100% right that, and I'm going to use it too, that you vote people out. You don't vote people in this country. It's unfortunate. And the other sad thing is that we always take the cue from down south. when we should be a lot more independent. Whatever happens down south is what dictates what happens up here. And I don't like it. I really don't like it. I think we're a strong nation that we should be, driving the boat a lot better than how we're doing it right now.
Yeah, you can't be just USA light. You can't be. And it's always been that way. It used to be a 3 or 4 year lag. Now it feels like it's a 12-month lag.
Yeah.
Where the assimilation of Canada as the 51st state.
Yeah.
And I disagree with that. I mean, I enjoy the U.S. I like the people in the U.S. I think they're, I've met some of the greatest people in my world in the United States. They've been so kind, and they're just a genuine group of people who get tarred with this brush because of their government. And I find that, and I don't want to be that as a Canadian. And that's what's happening. I feel like Canadians are being tarred by the roller or by the brush that our government is painting us with.
Yeah. And
that we are as Canadians. And I believe that we need to be able to stand up, and I think we need to stand up all at once. And that's a really tough thing to get people to do in this country, or really anywhere. It's really hard for everyone to just go, all right, we've had enough.
We're getting close to that though, Mitchell. Like, we're getting very, very close to that. I wish we were already there, but we're getting close.
And it sucks that we've had to get here. It sucks that, that so many people feel like that. Everyone's afraid. And it's funny that I bring it back to the construction industry. Nobody wants to say anything to the local government or any government for fear of being blackballed, right? Oh, well, if I say anything or if I push too hard, I'm going to be blackballed. And I'm like, I wrote it in one of my things that I write down, is that it's too late.
Yeah.
If you want, then you're already blackballed. It doesn't matter. You could say nothing.
Yeah.
And you're not treated any better. Like the rules are still going to get applied non-unilaterally across the jurisdiction. This is, anyway, that's a frustration level that I some days have to stay out of, Manny.
No, I feel your pain. I see it. I'm just curious, as we're getting close to the end here, and I'm going to ask you the 12 questions. I'm just curious on which trades are actually still thriving out west there, and which ones are not doing so well these days. Is there
pool building?
Sorry,
pool building.
Oh, for sure. Guys
building.
Yeah,
they're doing great. So we work with a bunch of pool builders. He's like, yeah, we're super busy still. And I'm
really?
Like, but yeah.
Okay.
So there's lots of free money where people, and during COVID, that just went mental with people. I built a pool for myself during COVID, and I did it myself with these guys' help in the end. But they're busy. There's a lot of still free cash or cash out there. And that's it. I found it interesting because we're not building houses, but they're building pools in existing properties.
Not the case here. All pool building has pretty much come to a complete halt in Ontario. It was the case during COVID. You couldn't get a pool builder to come to you to build or anything. But now you got pool builders that are basically taking little walkways. They're doing small hardscaping jobs because nobody is putting an order in for a pool. Like, with the carbon tax, like, even I myself, I've seen in the highest point in the summer months with gas consumption on my own, I would never go over $30 a month for gas consumption, right? So I can only imagine with the pools, and you're heating the pools. So, and I bring that up because my highest now, or my lowest gas bill in the summer months, was over $60. And obviously that's all tax. That's not consumption of gas. That's all tax. So I'm seeing a bill that used to be 20 something up to 60 something now. And so I can only imagine if you're a pool and you've got a pool and you got to heat it, your gas bill, what that pool is going to be. And you can't get into the electric world of heating a pool because that just doesn't make any sense. So here in Ontario, it's all stopped. Yeah.
Yeah. So here they seem to be still busy. There's a lot of builders sitting idle. We're finishing up the stuff we have. The designers, it's kind of hit and miss. The sort of designers who are designing stuff that's built in the $3 million and down. They're still relatively busy. Wow. 2 million and down. Renos, they're busy. Got in the high end, the really expensive stuff are dead.
Wow.
The plumbers, I'm getting lots of calls from guys. Hey, what do you got coming up? What do you got coming up? What do you got coming up? So all of the subs have generally slowed down unless you're doing multi. A family friend of ours just called the other day looking for a job as an electrician. I phoned a buddy of mine who does high rise and he's working, one of his jobs is on one of the big Indigenous projects. And he's like, yeah, we're flat out. Send the kid.
Yeah.
So those industries on the bigger projects, they're still relatively busy. I know that one of the big developers, and they're an $11 billion company out here. This is the first year they've come into this year with no new projects scheduled to start this year. And that was the first time in the company's history. So that I think we're only just starting to see that happen. And even if the government was a wholesale change, we'd be 18 months to 2 years before.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Right. The policy can't change that quickly, and the financial environment can't change that rapidly. I've
been telling everybody here that you're not going to start to see the turn until the end of 26, going into 27.
I think you're right.
Right.
You're correct.
We're not changing the guard until next year, and then once that happens, you still have to do the whole process at that point. And then you're not going to see the changing of it until the following year, the end of it, towards the early of 27. And it seems like forever away, but that's just reality, right?
Yeah, I mean, the last 4 years seem to have just flown by. Like, I think since 2020, I think everybody kind of looks back and goes, "Oh, yeah. Wasn't that last?"
I know.
I think we all kind of lost 3 or 4 years in that 12-month period. So.
Mitchell, thank you very much. I got to do the 12 questions. Let me share all the information again. Karnak Pro Builders, www.karnakprobuilders.com. On IG, Karnak Pro Builders. And then also his email is mitchell@karnakprobuilders.com. And then also your other email is mitchell@mitchellbaker.ca. Correct?
Correct.
You ready for this?
I am.
What's your favorite construction word or phrase?
Permit's ready.
You don't hear it all that often these days, huh? Least favorite tool?
Oh, the fine tool.
Oh, multi-tool. The proper one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hate those. They're super loud and it just shows a lack of fun.
What do you miss from your childhood?
The innovation and the adventure that my parents led us on. My parents were, you kind of miss that, right? You had no responsibility and it just all happened for you. It was all laid out and you got to just enjoy it and experience it.
The discovery of the first time, right? The very first time of discovery on everything that you did. That's right.
Everything you did.
Yeah.
And we're really good at showing us so many vast different things that, it was always, you were always learning.
What construction sound do you love?
And I said this earlier, the sounds of multiple hammers and people driving nails, when you know that what's happening in there is quality and experience at work. Yeah. That is, I love, you hear a saw and there's 4 or 5 hammers going. I love that. There's something that gets the hair up on my arms.
What's your favorite beverage?
Well, it would have been Crown Royal and Budweiser, but now it's coffee and bubbly.
What turns you on and off in construction?
Poor workmanship, where it's obvious that the people who did it just didn't care.
They didn't care. I know.
They just, and that, the other thing that really turns me off is, oh, well, so-and-so can do it cheaper. Well, these guys, I got a cousin, or, why is everything so expensive? And, so-and-so said they could do it for this. I'm like, well, you might as well hire them because they're obviously better at it than me.
Yeah.
Because if they could, and I didn't make the prices. So, but what turns me on, I said to this earlier, was the driving around thinking like you got the world by the ass.
Yeah.
Standing there going, yeah, man, look, I remember building in when I was really young, I was just a framer. and we'd stand up 10 studs, and you just at the end of the day, and the sun was going down, you'd stand up a bunch of studs on a stick frame wall. You'd have your top plate and your double plate, and it felt like you just built the Acropolis with the sun. That's that, and I think that's the only thing that ever kept me in this business was that, oh, look, built the Acropolis with some sticks and some 2x4s. You know,
it's so true. It's so true. What's your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
What's your
fuckity fuck?
Fuckity fuck. What's your favorite vehicle? Any mode of transportation?
Well, I got a few of them here, so I'd be my personal for mountain bike, Volkswagen Westphalia, any BMW M car, and my Harley. So
which Harley?
As I said, I'm a guy, so I got a bunch of that shit.
Which Harley is it?
What's that?
Which Harley is it?
I got a Road King.
Oh, nice. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt one day? I guess we kind of know.
An official.
Sorry?
An elected official.
Yeah, totally. What profession would you not like to do?
Police. I think it's a really tough job, and I don't think I could do it.
No,
It's a very hats off to those guys, man, and those women. Yeah, that is a very difficult position. Yep,
for sure. Last question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at those pearly gates?
Well, I don't think he's gonna. It's what I'd like to hear, but I think I expect to hear. Well, this is a surprise.
You never know. Mitchell, thank you very much. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And hopefully it all works out well. And I'd love to get you back on the mic afterwards, and then we can chat about maybe a couple of months into it and see what happens. But I honestly, I genuinely wish you the best. I hope you get it.
I appreciate you. Thanks for the support.
Yeah. All right.
It's been great. Good time.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad, and thank Kirsty there off mic there, off camera, that she set this all up and reached out, which is amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And it was good to finally chat with you again. And I love what you're doing. It's great.
Sounds good. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. All right. Don't go anywhere just yet. There it is. Okay. Now we go. We're all done. Thanks, Mitchell. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, pal.
Okay. Take care.